All right, good. All right, I am sending you a document in our groups. Give me 1 second. So first of all, happy Deepavali to everybody. Happy Deepavali, everyone here and our teacher friends over at Saket. C1 teachers, C2 teachers, S1 teachers. Today is going to be fun. I say that every time, but I mean it today. All right. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurudeva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Lovely. Okay. Last time what we went through was, what is the difference between a workshop, what's discussion, and an activity? They seemed like arbitrary statements I was making, just an introduction there. Today we're going to go further with it, okay? A discussion is where you're coming to a conclusion with the students. You have a question that you've put out there. You haven't provided a conclusion yet. They work their way to that conclusion, and then you wrap things up. That's what a discussion is. Activity is you've provided them a problem and what the solution conclusion is. You've gone through that whole train of thought with them. Activity is putting that to practical use. Something hands-on. Something where they have to do some further research on a topic. A kind of activity where there is not just discussion, but a writing component they have to do, some kind of reflection, something building on that discussion. Discussion, just the problem, they come to a conclusion. Activity, problem, solution, both are given. Then you do something on that. Workshop is where there are a set of topics with problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution, or question, conclusion, question, conclusion, question, conclusion, putting all that and wrapping it together. Now, still that sounds kind of abstract and nebulous. So, looking at this first page then, if you look in the teachers' groups, you have received it. Did you receive it? Yes. C1, C2, S1, S2, all of you do have it. So going to that document, looking at that first page, this should look familiar to you. This is our teaching framework that we've been using for a couple months now. Now here you'll have two colors highlighting the page, either blue or yellow. Let's look at that first section on preparation then, where in blue, list takeaways that students must know, leading to designing a concrete activity, workshop, and or discussion. So if you look on page 2, what do we find here? So far, the topic in this session we've been doing has been Pujya Gurudev's essays as I think. So the four most recent essays that we've gone through, I've written excerpts there, and I've highlighted some things, okay? What have I highlighted? If you look at the highlighted portions in each of these four essays, Gurudev first mentions what the problem is, then he goes into what the solution is in every single essay. So the first highlight in each section is the problem, second highlight then is the essay. Second highlight then is the solution to be come to. So the way we're going to work through this together today is, and in your groups, if I asked you to make a group discussion, that would be taking the problem statement in an essay, all right, and formulating questions out of that. That's a group discussion because they come to a conclusion with that. If we say an activity, that would be the two highlighted parts of what is the problem and the solution, coming up with an activity to really convey that to the students. And if we said workshop, that would be all four of these essays in that case, with all the problems, all the solutions. How is there some interactive workshop you can do where they get all the takeaways from this? At the same time, you see the thread through all of these topics. The first thing we're going to do then is, if you look on the third page, I've isolated that part about preparation, just that part. Well, the first thing we do after studying it for ourselves, whichever section we're going to teach, is listing the takeaways for the students. A takeaway literally is, as they're leaving the classroom, what do they walk away with? Is it that they have to know every definition given word per word as it is in the book? Is that my takeaway? Is it that I want them to know this subject so deeply that the moment they walk out, they can teach someone else and be so well versed in it? Is it that I want the takeaway to be that there are certain 3 to 5 points in this teaching that they know deeply and they know how the logic goes from beginning to end? What are my takeaways? That's for me to decide as a teacher, you all to decide. The first part of our exercise then, how many kindergarten through second grade teachers? Okay, 3rd through 5th? Healthy number. 6 through 8? Okay, 9 through 12? Okay, that's good. All right, we'll split into our regular 4 groups. Your ask for a few minutes is, pick one of these essays that you have here, and looking at the problem and the solution highlighted, and just pick one of the 4. So kindergarten through second grade, rediscover our religion. 3 through 5, beware the cheap gods. 6 through 8, our generation, the modern. 9 through 12, the sacred, the secular. Come up with 3 takeaways for your particular essay, 3 things you want the kids to walk away with. That if nothing else, Maharaj, at least these 3 things know before you leave my classroom. What are your 3 takeaways? Now, paring it down for a 2nd or 3rd grader is going to be tough, but that's why we put you in those hard classes. So, get into your groups, and the first ask is, not even design a lesson yet. List the takeaways for your particular essay. 3 takeaways. Go ahead.
substitute groups as well, because there are a couple of substitute teachers here.
All right, we ready to debrief? Ow. Okay. All right. Back. Eyes up here, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Let's get a few responses. Just give me one takeaway, okay? So kindergarten to second grade. Give me one takeaway. Zor, say loudly.
Hari Om, we want the children to start the day greeting the parents with Hari Om.
Okay. From the first essay then. Okay? 3rd through 5th grade? 3rd through 5th grade?
No one knows everything.
No one knows everything. Except for even their parents. Oh, nice. That causes dysfunction. I love that. That's good. Mom, you don't know everything. 6th through 8th grade? 6th through 8th grade?
So we said the first one was to define what needs were, because in the context of modern, what does modern man think his needs are, to get that right?
So our generation, the modern, was their essay. So define what needs are. So eventually differentiating from wants, things like that. Good. Then 9th through 12th?
So our takeaway was that philosophy means love of wisdom, and wisdom is the base of the sacred. But even in the sacred, you can have the secular aspect of even there.
So it's not that the sacred and secular have to be divorced. It's that you can have elements of the secular in that sacred. It's not that they're completely different with their own ambits and realms that they function in. Nice. When it comes to these takeaways, because ideally you'll be working with your co-teachers to list these takeaways before the lesson. You'll be working with your co-teachers before the class to list these takeaways. In that situation, put verbs in your takeaways of what the kids should be able to do. Whether that means they should be able to list something, they should be able to verbalize and express something, they should be able to understand a nuance in a situation, make it verb-based. So it's not so general that, we should give this out or some topic, just laid out there. A takeaway is, what is the actionable thing the kids should be able to do after that lesson? Now, after takeaways, the next part we can jump to, in the interest of time, because 11:30 is our photo. I cannot take that away from you and be delayed with that. So, if you go to page number 2, page number 4, that's the environment one. What I've highlighted there is design a deliberate class structure with student buy-in, and then distinguish Bal-Vihar learning from an academic learning environment. So the next few minutes, what you can do with your group is 2 things. Number 1, figure out to express why this knowledge that you're teaching, you can only get here at Bal-Vihar or in a spiritual setting. Because about modern generation, there are 1,000,001 thoughts out there and different views. When it comes even to whatever you're doing in kindergarten to second grade, those views are out there everywhere as well. Convincing the kids and letting them know, why is it that this perspective in this setting is unique here, something you will not find elsewhere. Now, you may say, Hari, you're pushing it that, oh, we only talk about this here. Nowhere else can they get this perspective. Yes, nowhere else will they get this perspective. They have to understand what's special and unique, the apurvata of this institution, what we do here. First part is simply, how do we convey that to them? That they only get that here. Second part then is going to be, as you discuss, finding any objection to these takeaways from the kids. Because I know middle school kids never object to anything, but for the other grades, what are their objections going to be to the takeaways you've listed? Predicting a few of those, okay? So those two things take about 5 to 7 minutes. Ready, set, go. All right, moving on to the next part now. If you feel I'm not giving you enough time to discuss, that's good. That means get with your teachers during the week and discuss these things as well. That's what will make it better. Yes, that's when you have more time. You can talk as long as you want. That's what should be done. When it comes to the first part here, the specialty of why this is not like just some academic setting, what makes this topic, learning it here, so special is, one is the long-term growth. This is not something that you're cramming for an exam in 3 days and then it leaves your head. That's what we do at school. This is not what that purpose is. I can't tell you how many times when I was in class thinking, I'm never going to use this in life again. Why am I worried about this physics exam? At the same time, kids have that attitude about here, that this stuff is not going to be relevant to me ever again. Why does it matter? I even said the same thing and then something happened later on, but that's an attitude that's there. So explaining this is not something that may be making complete sense to you right now or you thinking it's relevant right now, look at the dividends long term. Because there's the line in Bhagavad Gita about alpa buddhi. Alpa buddhi does not mean dim-witted. It means those people that only have desires for those tangible short-term things cannot think beyond their nose. We want our kids to be more holistic than that. Next is focusing on how this is your journey. This is not groupthink here where you have to believe everything we say, showing some kind of false deference to us as teachers. That is not what we're about. This is your journey, but we'll equip you with the tools to take that journey. Whenever it is that you feel like this is important, and that's not given in school or in any other setting where expectations are there to buy in at that moment and go for it. It's your journey here. That's the first part. Objections. What's wrong with me? Objects. Objections. Kids will have objections. As teachers, sometimes that kind of turns us off. When it comes to the objections, preempt them. Meaning, as you're teaching the lesson, you've come up with objections with your co-teacher. You can say, now, this point here, one objection that may come up, or you may feel like this is the case, and then work your way around that. What does that show? Shows the kids, even the younger kids catch on to this, that you're not just sitting there dictating some point, but you've thought through yourself. They respect that. There was a new teacher teaching high school a couple of years ago. So I was talking to Balavihar kids about how is the teaching going. By the way, I do talk to Balavihar kids. They tell me about all of you guys. So I was talking to one of the kids, I said, how is it going? He said, honestly, Hari, the teacher, she's not too great at the delivery, we feel, but she prepares a lot, and so we like that. Meaning the class wasn't going as well as it could have because delivery wasn't there to that extent, but they understood how much she prepared. They appreciated that then. One form of that was coming up with these objections before they do and saying, this is how we work around it. That makes for a smoother class. Right time then. As you're telling the story or going into a topic, you have these trolls showing how smart they are, trying to say, oh, but this, but that. Say that, let me get through this section for the next 10 minutes or so. Then open it up. Any questions or objections? And then take 5 minutes going at that. So give what you have to say first, then open it up. So right time, the right language as well. Where once they have an objection, if you come at them with, oh, you're not understanding, that's why you have the objection, they're not going to want to speak up ever again. And what I'm hearing a lot of, especially for 8th grade and above, is our teachers, whenever we object to something, either they get super defensive or they act like we're stupid, or both. Don't give in to that impulse. It may be an objection that's very obvious to circumvent. These are kids, okay? Their mindsets are different. When we were kids that age, did we know everything? We didn't. That's one of your takeaways, right? No one knows everything. We as teachers need to understand that as well. And for God's sake, when you're doing some kind of a topic and speaking on it, stick to what the material says. Don't go on about your political beliefs and what you think about it. This is not a soapbox for our teachers, okay? I see a lot of teachers doing that, especially at the high school level, where this is my time to say whatever I want. I'm going to sit and talk about my political views and what I think about the world and things. That's not what the Balavihar setting is for. Be faithful to what the content is. If you have a problem with the content, come to me, but do not just veer away from it and do whatever you want. That's not acceptable. I know when that happens, by the way. One way is the class update. And I know when a class update is just fluff, okay? When it's a basic 3 lines of, then we did this, we did that, there is no indication of conversation, nothing like that. There are ways that I can tell, and the kid feedback also, don't treat it like a personal soapbox. Stay faithful to what it is, but bring in these objections, and when they have objections, answer them respectfully as well. And sometimes objections will be far out in left field, something that's not even relevant. Let them know that. Say that that may be a thought that you have, but that's not relevant at this stage right here to this topic. Maybe at the end of class you touch upon it. That keeps the trolls from being emboldened. Because if you try to address every single comment that's there, thinking that that's what a good teacher does, you veer away from the topic. They own the classroom then. You lose control totally. That's one part of it. Now for our final part then, for the next 5 minutes, we'll skip around here. With your chosen takeaways then, come up with one group discussion flow of 3 or 4 questions, and come up with one activity you can do for your particular essay. Well, only to your particular essay. The workshop thing we'll come to next time if we have time. But for now, for the next few minutes, one group discussion flow with 3 or 4 questions, how that flow would go, where discussion is what again? The problem is presented, conclusion is not presented. They're the ones that come up with that conclusion. You take them there. Activity is problem, conclusion are already ascertained. You've already gone through that after a discussion. Activity is what is the practicality of it, something hands-on that you do. Yes, Samaji.
How do you, what's a quick pointer on handling a situation where it's a valid question you don't know the answer to without losing ground or that confidence in the class?
Amazing question. What happens when a question arises that I, as the teacher, don't know the answer to, without ceding my own ignorance to a certain extent and saying that I don't know it and losing face that way? How do I handle it? Humility goes a long way here. Saying that, look, just as you guys are all learning, even as an adult, I'm still learning, that is something I'll look up and get back to you on. And there have been times, even as a brahmachari, I've said something from here, people have come to me after and said, that's actually wrong, here's the reference on what it really is. That's happened. Starting the next lecture, I say, mea culpa, I messed up on this is what it is, we move forward. That goes a long way with the people. They judge much less than we think. Seeing that kind of a humility from the instructor, people say they're secure enough to admit when they're wrong. That builds the respect for that person. That's what I've seen happen. All right, 5 minutes then. Group discussion flow, simple 3 questions or so. And then what's an activity you'd do? Hari Om, take 2 more minutes. All right, Hari Om. Last part now, before our group photo that we take. When it comes to your discussion flow, oftentimes what we find is younger grade teachers say we can't have discussions, they don't say stay interested in it. Younger grades, 5th grade and below, is that what you guys said too? 5th grade and below make it as guided without being open-ended, okay? Where you ask very pointed questions. Some of them are call-out questions by the whole group. That, is it good to give? Yes, things like that, okay? Like a rock concert. You know, Dallas, I love you, do you love me? Ah, ooh, ee. Like that, some things that they can call out, those things for the lower grades. But asking pointed questions as well, taking 2 or 3 answers, then you summarize a bit, go to the next one. When it comes to the older grades, we say building on each other's responses. Kids don't really do that, younger grades. You wrap it up every now and then, summarize it, then the next question. They still have to feel like they're contributing. They still have to feel like they're giving some answers in class where it's not just one-way teaching, or else the buy-in goes away, but make sure that you're keeping it contained. Once you get a little bit older to the grades, have a goal of your discussion. Not just we start out the topic here, wherever it goes, whichever stop we get off on the train, we get off. That cannot be our approach. That is there a deliberate goal that we have? Starting point is here, ending point is here. We're coming to a certain conclusion. Just because I said takeaway, group discussion means that there is no conclusion you go in with. That means you're not telling them the conclusion. As teachers, you have a conclusion in mind of that conversation. Have you met that goal by the end of it? Was it just open-ended and they leave thinking different opinions were shared? There's no one opinion that's right. There is an opinion that's right. It's what's given in the textbook and what we're learning. That has to be wrapped up. Second part is buy-in through group discussions comes from having that kind of open environment. Where as the teacher, if you make a comment and you say, right, like we see that as buy-in. If we make a statement, if they nod and they agree, that's buy-in like that. It has to be deeper than that. That given that this is what the statement is, certain objections are there, what do you think of it? And the truth is, when it comes to buy-in for a group discussion, it's not usually about the topic, it's about the person facilitating that topic. So if you catch you and your co-teacher talking at length, and if you and your co-teacher are talking more than the kids, you're doing it wrong. In a group discussion, you're simply facilitating. Do not be afraid to call out your co-teacher. Not in front of the class, after when you debrief. Because if we look at the framework, there's a part for debrief after class. Let your co-teacher know that yes, when you lead the discussion, don't dominate it. If they take offense and there's a blow-up or something, I'm right here, okay? And don't think I'm going to side with you just because you talked to them. I'm going to hear both sides, and the verdict will come about what's happening moving forward. But communicate with your co-teacher that way. Don't resign yourself to, I've heard teachers say this, when I teach, I'm open with the kids. When he or she teaches, they dominate the kids and just take over the discussion. At least half the time things are going well. No. You are one team. You both succeed or fail together. Tell them then. Activities. Walk away from the activity. The kids should know why we did the activity and what now. Why meaning that does it have some relation to that topic that's going on? Where when they remember this tangible activity, do they remember what the connecting point was to that actual lesson? What was being taught? Second part, what's the follow-up on it? Is there some kind of takeaway from that activity that if it's practical, that should be something that helps them along in their journey? Make that connection then. Something they can move and take forward. So this week we focused continuation of group discussion, activity and workshop with a pure focus on group discussion and activity with the lessons that you're learning in here. We're all learning together Gurudev's essays, using that as a marker. Next time, we'll go into workshops even more. And I know that's Thanksgiving weekend for a lot of people that are leaving, but we'll do a few sessions on workshops then. That'll be interesting to see. So, am I moving too slow with all this stuff or too fast? It's deliberate. I have a certain process deliberately going about. But if we all adopt some of these things as one teacher's group, nothing can stop us, all right? We will be amazing as a teacher's group. The kids will benefit a lot. So that's for this week. Let's slowly move forward with it. So with that, we'll do the closing prayers. And then at Saket also, please have your group photo at 11:30. Hopefully more people there showed up than they did here, but we'll have a nice group photo. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari